Day for Michael Jackson's family. His elder brother Tito and member of the Jackson 5 has died at the age of 70.
Michael was a common threat to the whole family, and I think the family has handled it very well, but it's a very big pill to swallow, so we're going to continue to love each other.
The Jackson dynasty mourning the death of Tito Jackson.
The Jacksons have always been a family full of secrets and scandals. But Tito Jackson, he was supposed to be the good one, right? The quiet, drama-free brother who stayed out of the spotlight while his siblings fought over money, contracts, and fame.
After we found ourselves, we found out that we are brothers and we are entertainers, so that's what we were put here to do, so that's exactly what we're doing.
But what if we told you Tito had a dark secret of his own, one he took to the grave? Everyone talks about his death and how the family reacted, but no one's really digging into the deeper, more chilling side of his story, his wife's tragic death.
I was told that my mom had been in an accident and that I need to go to the hospital right away.
Officially ruled an accident, but was it really? Because later, it came out that she didn't just drown in that pool. It was something far more sinister.
When he said she's dead, I don't remember anything else he said.
What really happened to Tito's wife, and how did it tie into the family's conspiracy-laden legacy? Let's dive into the secrets Tito carried with him to the very end. Just 4 days before Tito Jackson's unexpected passing at the age of 70, he posted what would tragically be his final message to fans. On Instagram, he paid tribute to his younger brother, the king of pop, Michael Jackson.
Tito was the at least heard member of the group as a background singer who played the guitar.
Tito shared a heartfelt image of a memorial for Michael in Munich, Germany, captioning it, "Before our show in Munich, my brothers Jackie, Marlon, and I visited the beautiful memorial dedicated to our beloved Michael Jackson. We're deeply grateful for this special place that honors not only his memory but also our shared legacy. Thank you for keeping his spirit alive." It seemed like a touching moment of reflection, but looking back, was this post hinting at something deeper, something more ominous? What no one knew at the time was that this would be his last message to the world, a final tribute to his brother before taking his own secrets to the grave. His death shocked fans, but the real shock came when people started to revisit the unresolved mysteries surrounding his life. One person wrote, "Tito was still touring with his brothers in his last days. Like Michael, Tito gave much of his life to working and performing. R.I.P. Tito. Had he not broke the string on Joe's guitar, there may not have been a Jackson 5. Tito Jackson had been in Munich just days before his passing, preparing for a performance with the Jacksons' current lineup alongside his brothers Jackie and Marlon. It seemed like business as usual for the group, but on that Sunday, tragedy struck when Tito suffered a suspected heart attack while driving from New Mexico to Oklahoma. Family friend and former Jackson family manager Steve Manning broke the news, revealing that Tito's death came as a shock to everyone.
Tough news for many of us waking up to this morning. Tito Jackson helped originate the Jackson 5 with his brothers Jackie, Jermaine, Marlon, and of course Michael Jackson.
Though the official cause of death has yet to be confirmed, the loss was felt deeply by his family, especially his 3 sons, Taj, Terrell, and TJ, who once made up the band 3T. The brothers shared emotional tributes to their father, stating, "We are shocked, saddened, and heartbroken. Our father was an incredible man who cared about everyone and their well-being." Tito's death left behind 9 grandchildren and an undeniable legacy as one of the original members of the iconic Jackson 5. But with his passing, so too went the opportunity to fully understand the darker mysteries that lingered around his life. Some of you may know him as Tito Jackson from the legendary Jackson 5. Some may know him as Coach Tito, or some know him as Papa T. Nevertheless, he will be missed tremendously. It will forever be Tito time for us. Please remember to do what our father always preached, and that is love one another. We love you, Pops. Your boys Taj, Terrell, and TJ. His son's mother was Dolores DD Jackson, who Jackson wed in 1972 and divorced in 1988. His wife's death, for example, was never truly resolved, and some believe it haunted Tito to his final days. Could this tragedy have played a part in his sudden heart attack, or was there more beneath the surface than anyone realized?
DD Jackson, Mystery has surrounded her tragic death since she was found floating face down in her boyfriend's backyard swimming pool.
Tito Jackson's life was not without its tragedies, the most devastating being the death of his wife Dolores DD Jackson in 1994. She was found dead in a swimming pool at the age of 39. And although her death was initially ruled accidental, the story took a chilling turn. Her boyfriend at the time, Donald Bohanna, was later charged and convicted of second-degree murder in 1998, marking the end of what many thought was a tragic accident. Bohanna served 24 years before being granted parole in December 2022, but questions still linger around the circumstances of DD's death. Doctors pronounced the 39-year-old dead before her sons, TJ, Taj, and Terrell, could even reach the hospital. I just had a sixth sense in my head, as if I knew already it was terrible, and I knew already that my mother wasn't with us, TJ Jackson told ABC News 2020ths. It was just a nightmare. It's like a kid's worst memory. 4 years later, in November 1998, Bohanna was found guilty of second-degree DD Jackson's death and given 15 years to life. He spent 19 years in a California prison but still maintains that he did not kill her. Tito Jackson, a member of the famous Jackson 5 and DD Jackson's ex-husband, called her death the coldest day of our lives. They, his sons, said, "Mom is dead," Tito Jackson said. "It was just a sad moment, you know. It was just horrifying." Tito Jackson and Dolores Martz, as she was known before they married, had met at Fairfax High School in Los Angeles. He said that while he was a shy young man, DD Jackson was outgoing. Tito Jackson, on releasing solo music at age 62, she had ran up to me and said, "Happy birthday," and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Tito Jackson said they wed right out of school in 1972. DD Jackson became part of the whirlwind of fame surrounding the Jackson 5. Tito Jackson said that she was treated like a sister and that everyone loved her. Terrell Jackson said his mother stayed out of the limelight and enjoyed simply raising him and his brothers. They, the Jackson 5, would go on tour, he said. So a lot of times, it was us three and mom at home. I think my mom knew that it was not going to be a quote-unquote normal life, so she made it as normal as possible. Taj Jackson called her the perfect role model for us. In 1993, however, she and Tito Jackson divorced. Months later, at the age of 39, DD Jackson started dating Bohanna, 59. And on that fateful night in August, she died. The Jackson family said they immediately had questions. They did not believe DD Jackson accidentally drowned in the pool because they say she was terrified of water. My first question was, drown. What was she doing in the water? Tito Jackson said, "You know, 'cause DD and I, neither of us swam." That didn't line up with anything that we believed in knowing our mom and knowing how much she feared the pool, Taj Jackson said. Also, Tito Jackson said the bruises and the damage on her body seemed to indicate that there had been scuffles and fights. It points to a to me in the first degree, Tito Jackson said. After DD Jackson's tragic death, Donald Bohanna maintained that she had been comfortable swimming in his pool, claiming the bruises found on her body were from his attempts to pull her out. However, the Jackson family never bought into his explanation. Tito Jackson, along with his family, believed Bohanna had darker motives, suspecting he wanted financial help from DD, and when she refused, her in a fit of rage. She was a Jackson, and that's what he knew, Tito said, convinced that her connection to the legendary family played a role in her death. However, prosecutors, including Deputy District Attorney Lori Jones, couldn't prove this theory during the trial.
Yeah, someone's stolen my pool. What's the problem, sir? Someone's stolen my pool. What's the problem? He's drowning.
Bohanna, now in his 80s, has been denied parole 4 times since his conviction, with DD's sons, Taj, Terrell, and TJ, standing firmly against his release each time. But in a surprising shift, the brothers have softened their stance. TJ Jackson told the parole board, "If you feel it's time for him to get out, then let him out." While they may have come to terms with his possible release, the pain of losing their mother still lingers.
Horrifying and just the coldest day of our lives.
The 3 men have since channeled their grief into something positive, founding the DD Jackson Foundation and offering music therapy classes across the US to help others work through trauma. To this day, I'm learning how to deal with it, TJ admits, but the pain is still there. Despite the passage of time and their efforts to honor their mother's legacy, the shadow of her tragic death still weighs heavily on the Jackson family. This tragedy haunted Tito's life, but he never let it overshadow his music. The Jackson 5, formed in 1964 by Tito and his brothers Jackie and Jermaine, quickly grew to include their younger siblings Marlon and Michael. From a young age, Tito was destined for a life in music. At just 10 years old, he began playing guitar after his father, Joe Jackson, caught him tinkering with his instrument and breaking a string. Instead of punishing him, Joe demanded Tito play for him. Impressed, he bought Tito his own guitar, and the rest was history. The Jackson brothers got their start performing at school functions and even supermarkets. But by the time Tito was 12, they started hitting up local talent shows. By then, his younger brother Michael, who was only 7, had already stepped into the spotlight as the lead singer. In 1965, they ditched the name Jackson Brothers and rebranded as the Jackson 5, and soon they were racking up wins at talent shows all around Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, Michael started so young. He started singing with the brothers 5 or 6 years old. You know, back in Gary, Indiana, his first record, it was I'm a Big Boy Now.
Their big break came in 1967 when they won the amateur night competition at the Apollo Theater, a major moment for them. After that, their dad, Joe Jackson, started working part-time at the steel mill to help them land a record deal. By November of that year, the Jackson 5 signed with Steeltown Records. And just a couple of months later, in January 1968, they dropped their first single, Big Boy, kicking off their journey to superstardom. In 1969, the Jackson 5 signed with Motown Records, and that's when things really took off. They quickly scored a bunch of hits, including chart toppers like I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. But here's the kicker. Even though Tito was a talented guitar player, Motown wouldn't let him play on any of their tracks. They had session musicians handle all the guitar work instead, so Tito's guitar skills didn't get their time to shine until 1976 when the group left Motown for CBS Records. During that period, Tito and his brothers started writing more of their own music. He and Jackie were the most consistent members of the Jacksons, while Jermaine, Marlon, Michael, and Randy came and went over the years. After the Victory Tour wrapped up, Tito moved into session work and record production. The Jacksons eventually stopped recording after their 2300 Jackson Street album. But Tito and his brothers were honored in 1997 when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 2001, Tito had another reunion with his brothers during Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary concert special at Madison Square Garden. A memorable moment for fans everywhere. Tito Jackson kicked off his solo career in 2003, taking a different path from his pop roots and diving into the blues scene. He performed in various clubs with his band, which included producer and guitarist Angelo Earl, and was backed by a management team featuring Ed Tate. In 2007, Tito took on a new role in the UK as a judge on the BBC's celebrity singing competition Just the Two of Us for its second season, stepping in for singer Lulu. He shared the judging panel with vocal coach Cece Sammy, musician Stuart Copeland, and radio DJ Trevor Nelson. After Michael Jackson's death in 2009, Tito shifted gears again, taking on the role of executive producer for the reality show The Jacksons, a family dynasty which gave fans a behind-the-scenes look at the family during such an emotional time. In 2016, Tito Jackson finally found solo success on the Billboard charts with his single Get It Baby featuring Big Daddy Kane from his album Tito Time. This milestone made him the 9th and final Jackson sibling to land a solo hit on the charts. Tito Time was first released in Japan at the end of 2016 and later hit US iTunes in April 2017. Following the album's release, 3 singles were launched in the US, including When the Magic Happens, a duet with Jocelyn Brown that dropped on April 1st, 2017. Tito also brought the album to the UK in September 2017. In 2019, Tito performed at the Living Legends Foundation's LLF Annual Awards Dinner and Gala, where he performed One Way Street, another track from Tito Time. The song received a remix by producer Greg Pagani, known for his work with artists like Charlie Wilson and Johnny Gill, giving the track a fresh spin for fans. On July 9th, 2021, Tito Jackson dropped the first single, Love One Another, from his second solo album, Under Your Spell, which came out on August 6th. This track was a star-studded collaboration featuring his brother Marlon Jackson, blues legends Kenny Neal and Bobby Rush, and even Stevie Wonder. Unlike his debut album, Tito Time, which leaned more into pop and R&B. Under Your Spell saw Tito diving into his love for the blues. The album also boasted impressive collaborations with artists like George Benson, Joe Bonamassa, Grady Champion, Claudette King, The OJ's Eddie Levert, and Stephen Powell. Tito hit the road in 2022, performing on September 16th at Ground Zero Blues Club in Biloxi, Mississippi, alongside Kenny Neal for their Straight from the Heart tour. It was the second stop of the tour, following their first show on August 27th at Winston-Salem Fairgrounds Annex in North Carolina, and preceding their third show at the Bogalusa Blues and Heritage Festival in Louisiana on September 23rd. In 2023, Tito teamed up with Brazilian artist Natalia Damani to bring some Motown vibes back with their new song Attitude, which came with a music video. The collaboration was sparked by Charv the Don, a longtime friend of Tito's and Damani's manager, who helped bring the two artists together for this project.
Such a wonderful feeling. You said I can have it.
Despite the success, fame, and iconic status of the Jackson 5, Tito's life was marked by private grief and loss. DD's death cast a long shadow over his later years, and as much as he tried to move forward, the memory of her tragic end was never far behind. Could this sorrow have played a role in the health issues that eventually claimed his life? And with Bohana's release, did Tito ever find closure, or was it a secret torment he carried with him to the grave?